I want to turn to international relations, international community, and how we can help um, people in Thai who are struggling
Mm-hmm.
have their voices heard.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be a country called the United States that would be more reliable like this.
Mm.
But it doesn't seem like the US current regime is engaged in really outside politics too much, especially in Southeast Asia. The track record of President Trump is not that great in terms of engagement with Southeast
Mm-hmm.
Asia. But there are other players, right? That
Mm.
South Korea, Japan,
Mm.
Australia. So who do you look to and say, it doesn't have to be a country, international organizations, outside actors who could do more to help?
So,
Yeah.
yes, I think the way I should answer this question should start from the past in 2023 until this week.
Mhm.
So I'm going to structure the question and start it branching out until what's happening currently this week. Or maybe I should Quentin Tarantino it, and talk about this week. Actually, to my surprise, with the new order of how the U.S. voted with Russia, China, and North Korea in UN, and I felt like it's probably a new world order now of, I don't know, you guys professors have to come up with names, maybe multipolar nationalism or transactional realism or whatever. But whatever the order, the end of supranational order is done. Yeah. But Marco Rubio actually submitted an Uyghur human rights law in 2020 during Trump 1.0. And it became actually this week a counter geopolitical tension with what Thailand did yesterday, which was deported 48 Uyghurs back to China, which is against a non-refoulement principle, against the ICCPR, against CAT, which is the disappearance and torture international mechanism. So because Secretary of State Rubio has always been very strong when it comes to these kind of sentiments and the kind of message, kind of balance and call out Thailand to follow the international rule of law. So it's day by day. On Monday I would be reading and I was like, okay, it's not gonna be the word that I know anymore. And then on Wednesday it becomes something else that becomes a balance. Whether it will be just a one-time thing or more of an institutional thing, I mean, that remains to be seen. In terms of trade, in terms of the U.S.-China relationship, Thailand's number 10 on the list when it comes to surplus. So I wouldn't be surprised following what Thailand did with the deportation of the Chinese, given what Secretary Rubio only talked about in terms of pressuring Thailand not to deport. Will probably expedite the trade tariff to Thailand because we're surplus number 10. During Trump 1.0, that surplus was 20 billion US dollars, and we got slapped by the currency manipulation list in 2017. That surplus becomes 35 billion now in Trump 2.0. So I wouldn't be surprised that we would be pressured to reduce that surplus. I think it's clear that President Trump is a bilateral over a multilateral kind of guy. So I guess he will skip ASEAN and probably go to Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. And maybe Thailand would be fourth or fifth on that list individually. He might think of us as a backdoor of a Chinese production. He might ask us to withdraw from the BRICS application. So those would be the things that are coming on the US side. On the Chinese side, on the other hand, the trade relationship with China is a trade deficit of 45 billion US dollars. So if Peter Navarro at UC Irvine, the trade advisor to President Trump, Harvard Kennedy School, 1979, before that he was a Peace Corps in Thailand. New York Times asked him, Peter Navarro, what's your favorite nation? He said Thailand, because I was a Peace Corps there. So if he looks at this, that the trade relationship in terms of surplus grew from 20 to 35 billion, and the trade deficit with the Chinese is 45 billion. I think the Thai government really has to step up in terms of tackling the surplus and also reducing the deficit with the Chinese as well. You have to decouple them. It cannot be a Sino-American rivalry and you don't know what to prioritize. So like, for example, in India, Prime Minister Modi bought natural gas a lot to reduce that surplus. For me, then we have to start thinking about things that Americans are good at, and it will be beneficial to Thai people, such as medical device, such as cybersecurity technologies, some defense that we can diversify from the Chinese. I think that will help with the surplus and keep the tariff attack or postpone it at least. Then again, on the Chinese side, we have that trade deficit of 45 billion. That's pretty much electric vehicles and also the retail invasion, mining invasion, manufacturing invasion, the cheap products that comes with the e-commerce, which Indonesia blocked, but Thailand didn't block. So those are the things that we also have to do to balance it up a little bit. And I think we'll be able to maintain that strategic neutrality in what's going on nowadays. Now back to 2023, when it comes to democracy, when I was still a prime ministerial designated or candidate, a lot of like-minded democracies helped. South Korea, Australia, Germany was very strong. A lot of them is because of the alliance that our party has with, different party-to-party relationship through what it's called progressive alliance, social democrats. So SDP, SPD, Labour Party in Australia, Labour Party in New Zealand, and the like-minded democracies did speak up and did some quiet diplomacy to find a consensus for us. But, of course, different countries have different autonomy and you cannot intervene or you cannot interfere.
Great. So final question from me. We speak a lot about democratic backsliding, democratic recession, and a lot of people here at the FSI are worried about it and do research on it. And it's really somebody like you who's fighting for democracy, used to be on the ground in Thailand, now from outside. And as you think about your path forward for your country, are there models that you kind of look to and say, this is a country that was on a troubling path going down in the democratic recession route, but kind of it closed that negative cycle and then became a functioning democracy? What other countries that you look to?
Not absolutely, but like some parts of it. South Korea. Yeah, obviously what happened during the Olympics and two Kims, and finally you become a high-tech and high-touch country, whether it's all those K-wave or defense and automotives and things like that. I think that happened when I was born. The GDP per capita of South Korea and Thailand were exactly the same in 1979. And because of the democratic experience that South Korea had, that kind of trial and error that allows creativity and innovation without the censorship of the military. That's why they have movies like how they have today. Because of that, then I also looked towards the South Korean experience. The relationship between various institutions in the such of constitutional monarchy. Also, Japan has some application that we can look at in certain ways. Sweden, Nordic countries, and whatnot. That a constitutional monarchy that allows politicians to reform while protecting the monarchy at the same time, because that was always our intention. Our intention was to reform the country while preserving monarchy and nothing else. Constitutional monarchy is the only way to go for Thailand, not absolute monarchy nor republic. So it was always been clear like that. So each country has some experiences and some of bits and pieces, but no country autonomously can copy from one another, I don't think. But just to add, this year, for example, the elite fracture that happened in Bangladesh, what happened in Syria, what happened in Sri Lanka, Moldova, there's a lot of countries turned right or took away the incumbents. So it was Siblets, the professor who wrote Tyranny of the Minority, that gave me the number during the panel that we shared together, that within 19 elections, 17 incumbents lost. because people were really upset with the situation and the incumbents to stay, even if Prime Minister Modi of India lost a lot of legitimacy. I think that's the way that the world is operating nowadays.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And I would now like to turn to the audience and take.
Are we cold calling? Flipping the classroom now. I'm no longer the politician. I'm also an educator. So
you could do that. All right. So if you could raise your hands, we'll.
How much time do we have?
We have 45 minutes.
Okay. So why don't we do this? We take rounds of questions.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 questions at a time and then answer. I think we can do 3 or 4 rounds even. Okay, you moderate it.
Yeah. And then we'll take from here.
Prime Minister-elect Peter. My name is Andre from the GSB.
So
a bunch of us are actually in the late 20s and the beginning 30s, but we're struggling to orchestrate one day to transition from the private sector to the public sector. Literally what's happening earlier this morning is my classmate was debating as to whether he should attend your talk or a talk with Howard Marks at the GSB. He decided to pick Howard Marks, the CIO, the founder of Oaktree Capital, because he said, I gotta make money first. But so our questions is, you mentioned about how you made compromises with respect to financial situation and maybe with respect to values. What are tactical next steps that folks like us need to do post-school so that we could essentially enter the political sphere, both as a policymaker or politician, without making the mistakes that potentially other young politicians like yourself make? Thank you.
Peter?
Hi. What sort of conviction do you have in trying to discourage the younger generation from suffering from expectation fatigue, given what you've gone through? I mean, I think the world was flabbergasted with your ascending or potentially ascending by way of what you've experienced. I think there's a lot of young people out there that are quite systematically and systemically discouraged. How do you go about countering that? Yeah.
Third question.
Thank you. Okay, this question is going to be a little bit unfair, okay? So I warn you. Let me just briefly run through the obstacles to democratization in Thailand. Lawfare, weaponization of ethics, voter suppression, gerrymandering, deportation, that's the Uyghurs, right? And the trade deficit with China. Now, I'm struck that every single one of these obstacles exists in the United States. And given your background and your intimate knowledge of not just politics in Thailand, but politics in the United States, if I may presume to say this, if these are the challenges that you face in Thailand, can you advise us on facing those challenges in the United States?
Absolutely. It's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Waiting for your answer.
Sure. So we have 3 questions. First one was from a GSB student, from private to public. You're asking about my experience or as a... Okay, so for me, I started at the Boston Consulting Group and Merrill Lynch, and then I switched over to the public sector during the tsunami, when tsunami hit, and then I felt like public sector was much more intellectually curious than just maximizing shareholders' wealth or what the pricing or NPV value for this stock should be. I think the ex-investment banker understands what I'm talking about. So I made that switch and lost a couple of zeros for my paycheck from being a consultant to a staff member, but I felt like it was worth it. I think the key thing is lean political management. I mean, obviously, everybody has their own personal finances. I don't know if you have student debt and also what to do, what not, but obviously you have to make sure that you are comfortable to live for the next 5 years if you are not earning from a private sector. That's the most important thing. The spending. So how do you win elections without spending $5 million per district, because we spend like very little amount of the amount that our competitors spend. So once you optimize it, you lean it, you're not spending a lot of money, so you wouldn't be able to having to find the income, and you'll be able to support yourself financially as well. It's quite a hard thing. I was trying to look for a Bangkok governor, and a lot of people backed out because they asked me, what if I lose? And I work in a institutional or private sector, and they might not be able to return because they're a mid-rank manager and they can be replaced anytime kind of feeling. So it's kind of, it's something that is hard, but you also have to make sure that you manage, but guarantee that when you manage your campaign is as lean as possible and is not related too much on monetary compensation. Our average donation is $15 during our election, and we try to do that because of political autonomy. Because if I take from big energy companies or big banks or big retail, that means that when I want to do something that is fair for the consumers, they'll give me a phone call and say, okay, don't vote like that. So I don't want that kind of political journey. So that's why we spend very little, and then we crowdsource and raise fund by ourselves, and then you could manage your own personal finance as well through that way, because you don't have to like borrow a lot of money to run campaigns like any other established politicians in Southeast Asia. Second question from Minister, expectation fatigue. Voter mobilization and engagement strategies. We really have to do that on a regular basis now, whether in Thailand, in Indonesia a little bit, in America. Usually campaigns or appearance or voter mobilization and engagement strategies happen maybe 3 months or 6 months before the election, right? And then it's totally disappear when you won. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of things that have to happen all election cycle round. Like you have to be on the ground, you have to be at the village level, you have to be at the district level and try to mobilize people today, not 6 months before the election. And I felt like that's really important. In Thailand, every year there'll be a new voter of 0.8 million to be precise. So it's a 4-year election cycle. That's 3.6 million new voters every time. But we have seen here in America that we cannot take them for granted. It doesn't mean that just because you're a new voter and they will vote for a more liberal or a more progressive party. That's not true. Whoever party, whether left or right, conservative or liberal, who can engage with the young men, young voters first, will be able to occupy that. So that's something that they will really have to do. And if without them, then we'll completely lose. For Professor's question on listing all the things, pretty much summarizing what we talked about from lawfare to trade deficit with China. For you guys, the midterm is in 2 years, and it's Trump's second term. Compared to people in Myanmar, compared to people in Venezuela, there's always an opportunity that if the Democrats, especially the ones I talked to in Cambridge, that they start organizing now. Don't panic, organize. And if you start doing that now by midterm, you can take back Congress, and then finally you can make some senses out of it, and then maybe with the next election cycle, you still have a chance that people in Myanmar cannot say, a chance that people in Venezuela cannot say, but you have that chance. So I think if you start doing it now for the mobilization and engagement strategies, I think there's still an opportunity for you to read this very quickly. I think that would be how I answer your question, Professor.
Great. I'm going to go over there, see a few hands, and then I want to turn to question from webcast audience. So.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. I'm a senior here from Indonesia, and I have a few questions about what you think the younger generation cares most about in Southeast Asia, especially with regards to politics. given that there's a lot of things going on with climate change, AI, supply chains. I'm curious about what you think would be most impactful as a politician in order to get the young vote in Thailand.
My name is Mimi. Thank you for the talk today. I'm an alumni from Stanford International Policy Program, and I am from Myanmar. I'm a Burmese activist. Stuck here after the coup. I wanted to ask questions about, the situation of Myanmar. Obviously, the severe dire situation spills over to Thailand, and there's a lot of needs that need to be done in Thailand-Myanmar border. And as an activist, I've worked with a lot of Thai activists and also civil society in Thailand, work with Move Forward Party in the past as well. I want to, especially now that with the 8CAT and all of that, there's a lot more needs, and I want to know, who are the stakeholders that are will be most effective for us to engage in, and what is the future sort of that you see in terms of the situation in Myanmar? What is the, how does the political situation and other things will help or hurt anything that relate to our communities? Thank you.
Here, you.
Hi, Peter. So my name is Vipara. I'm an MBA 1 student from Stanford GSB, and I'm a student from Laos. I wanted to ask, let's say if you're interested in politics, but we want to, how can we build up some skill sets or network along the way, and especially in a non-democratic government system, perhaps? Thank you.
Okay, so 3 questions, right? The first one was from Indonesia. I'm about to find out next month, so that's what I'm speaking at the university, meeting with the younger generation of Indonesians. So I'll be able to answer you directly. But I felt from my office hours, from all the Southeast Asian students that I engage with, I felt like they're looking for representation. They're really looking for a party that could represent them. And a lot of Indonesian students, that's why I told Minister, when they come to me, they ask, so how much does it cost to form a political party? If I were to start a new party, what do I need to do and how much would it cost? And that comes a lot from Indonesia and comes a lot from the Philippines for some reason. So it's not like, Singaporeans or Thai, like, if I want to run for public office, what do I need to do, the skill set that I need to have? But for some reason, it's repetitive that it's Indonesian students and the Philippines said there's no political party that represent me. Whether it's probably about education, about the future of esports, the future of entertainment businesses and things like that. How can they make a living with the upcoming trends in Indonesia? And they felt like there was no representation in the party, so they all wanted to start new parties. So I guess, yeah, the answer, a quick one, would be a representation that represented the youth within Southeast Asia. Question number 2 was about the situation in Myanmar. I think for Thailand, we have to justify to the Thais that what happened or what's happening in Myanmar matters to Thailand, that we are sharing the border of almost 3,000 kilometers. If Myanmar coughs, Thailand gets sick, whether it's through transboundary haze from corn burning, whether it's the scam operation that is going on right now. And if you don't intervene, or if you don't find the right amount of pressure or incentive to make sure that the stakeholders in Myanmar get together, Thailand will have a problem, especially refugee management, the public health situation along the border. 2 years ago, I couldn't say this. People will say, you are a Thai politician, why would you care about Myanmar? Just focus on taxpayers' money in Thailand. But now we're starting to have that kind of justification that Thais or my constituents would understand that I'm a Thai politician working for Thailand, and I have to fix the problem at the source, at the origin, not the byproduct of it. So it's becoming quite a thing now. It's too late though, because of 5-point consensus is a 5-point bullets now with what happened. If back in the days, it's been almost 4 years, February 1st, 3-4 years. If the ASEAN leaders at the time, including Thailand, had that kind of political will to turn 5-point consensus to 5-year roadmap through troika of leadership from Laos to Malaysia to the next country. It's alphabet order. I can't think of it now. But you know what I mean? There's some continuity of leadership and Thailand gets involved. I felt like we would have find the right amount of pressure and incentive and finally understanding comprehensive views of what the military is thinking, what NUG is thinking, what NLD is thinking, and all the 15 ethnic groups were thinking. But it's dead. It's pretty 5-point consensus is pretty much dead. And what's happening now is the Chinese, coming in because of the scam operation and the scam bosses being in. So we started to see some assistance or some support of the Chinese government inside Thailand, inside of Myanmar, some release of the scam victims in Philippines, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, starting to do. Whether that's only a project, a transactional project from the Chinese side, it remains to be seen from now, whether it's only a one-time thing that they want to improve the reputation of the Chinese and they felt like, Malaysia couldn't do the job, Thailand couldn't do the job. It's been around for a long time after COVID, and it has to be the Chinese who takes care of this problem, which is something that we have to thank them for. But going forward in the future, because ASEAN couldn't get it together for so many years, and maybe it has to be some other country, some major superpower that gets inside and intervene, especially on the, not so much on the Pacific Ocean side, but on the Indian Ocean side, where there's gas pipelines all the way to Yunnan from Bengal, Gulf of Bengal, and 4 or 5 years is not enough. Finally, a way to get to the Indian Ocean through Myanmar, through Pakistan. It's something that might be a long term, but I'm not accusing them. So it remains to be seen whether that's the case or not. But it's very much clear that from all the frontier states in Myanmar, whether it's Thailand, India, or China, the Chinese are stepping up, which is a good thing for the scam operation. But whether it's a transactional thing or something that is larger than that, that remains to be seen at the moment, especially after President Trump 2.0 as well. Whether it will be a geopolitical competition, for example, that's something that we have to wait and see. A student from Laos, you were asking about, can you remind me once again? It was about how to navigate your political journey?
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps, yeah.
Come on, man. First thing is,
society.
Sorry, I'm getting cramps. So I'm standing up and it's hot. First thing you gotta be decisive first, whether it's a yes or a no, maybe. But I think in Southeast Asia, and if you want to run for public office, the first thing you have to do is you have to find a pain point that you want to fix. Whether in private sector or in a public sector, if you find that kind of pain point that you are focused about, that you are passionate about, you would be able to run for public office. If it's like about you are passionate about the Mekong River management, transboundary water management, environmental